So what we was talking about yesterday and what little buddy was talking about. But first thing we're going to look at is this. First, let's give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahshua HaMashiach. And let's go look at John 5 and 39.
Not gonna find somewhere else to sit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I didn't tell him to sit right there.
Hey.
Hey, go sit somewhere else.
Sit around.
John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that ye have not the love of Elohim in you.
Sit down right here.
So we had to sit back and look at it. Wow. Is the love of Elohim in you, or is it not? Does he know you the love of the Most High don't dwell in you? But we're going to look at something else, because this dude kept talking about this stuff all week, going in on it, back and forth about it. So I guess we'll look at it right now. Let's go to Job 41. Job 41 and 1. Job 41 and 1. Y'all all right this evening? Y'all ready to get this show on the road, get it cracking? Well, let's go on and look at Job 41 and 1. He said, can thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou let down? Can thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? What's the first thing come to your mind when you read this? When you hear that, what would come to your mind? Absolutely. Ain't no sea serpent finna be doing no talking. Much less this sea serpent going, he asked this question, because guess what? This is Yah talking. This is Yah talking to Job. He's sitting here asking Job, will a Leviathan make supplications and speak soft words? Will he make a covenant, and will you take him for a servant? Well, let's sit around and let's go ahead and see then about somebody speaking soft words in Matthew chapter 26. Well, Hebrew 5 and 7. Let's just see if the man spoke soft words. You know what it's also go to, what we was just looking at not too long ago, Hebrew 5 and 7, and what he's saying, will he speak soft words to you? Anybody? Hold on. Anybody got any idea what I'm talking about? Speaking soft words. Don't worry about it. I'll show you. I'm going to show you in a second. He said, who in the days of his flesh, when he offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard, and that he feared. Though he were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. So that means when he was saying, let this cup pass from me, and that supplication that he made in John 17, because you would think though that prayer he made in John 17 was soft words, wasn't it? Sanctify them through thy truth. They're mine, because mine are thine, because you gave them to me. Make them perfect in one as we are. Let me get the glory that I had with you before the world was. You've given me power over all flesh, that I might show that you the true Elohim and that I'm your son. Ain't this going back to what he said in Psalm 21? You didn't withhold the request of his lips. Even in John, when he told Lazarus to get up, he said, I don't speak these words for my sake, but for their sake, that they may know that you are with me always. Leah, no saying. No saying. So you sit back and look at that. Those would be soft words, right? You know you would speak soft words to somebody. Y'all know what the book say about soft words, don't you? Look at Proverbs. Let's look at turn away wrath. Proverbs 27, it turns away wrath. No, that what you think about the 7 abominations, they say if he speak fair. me see that Proverbs 27. Proverbs 27. It's not Proverbs 27, pardon me. But he said, you know, soft answer turn away wrath. You know, when we were talking about that a while back, when that first happened with the young man, you come back to Job 41, that got killed, Jordan Davis. You know what I'm saying? He spoke rough words to that man. That didn't justify what the man did, but a soft answer could have turned that away from it. Hello? What's going on? Man, you can send them congratulations along to Shayla and Will, because I seen that. He put that piece up there. Yes, sir. Yellow. The reason why we sitting back looking at why would you have a soft answer to somebody? Come to Luke 16. Why would you have a soft answer to somebody? Why would you speak softly to somebody? Anybody got an idea why you speak softly? Not only just to persuade them. You sit back and look at it when you step to your parents. How did you go to them? So I know some of you nasty niggas came. I mean, Luke 18 and 9. I know some of you niggas came hardcore and rough, like you could just talk to your people any kind of way. But he said if you would come to speak soft to him, that would be showing some manner of reverence or respect. I'm in awe of you. You understand what I'm saying? You know, when you desiring somebody who has something from somebody who has authority over you, do you go speaking to them with authority? Now we also looking at, he said, will he speak soft words unto thee? And it says that soft answer turn away wrath. We sit back looking at that Hamashiach came coming with tears and supplication. He was hurting that he feared. He came with that soft speech, didn't he? Or what's going back to what we looked at a while back in Isaiah 57 or Isaiah 66. He dwelled in the place of him of a contrite heart and a humble spirit. See, that's why James tell you to confess your faults one to another. If you would actually do that, you know what I'm saying? You would come with that softness because you would be acknowledging what you done, looking for that atonement. But hold on. Luke 18 and 9. Stop tizzy. Don't y'all go on no rampage. And he spake this parable unto a certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised the other. Two men went up into a temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, Elohim, I thank thee, that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. I fast twice in a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the publican standing afar off would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, Elohim, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone that exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. So this same man, you turn around and see him coming with soft speech, did he not? Stop. See, Hamashiach showing us that same pattern of behavior on what to do. Because when he was in a situation like this here, that turned away wrath from him. Now we look at, how did it turn away wrath from him? Because he died. It turned away, he was able to be rolled from the dead. The Father heard him. Because he came in humility. He said, if it's possible, let this cup pass. But not my will be done, but thy will be done. See, me and Trav were talking about this last night. You know what some of y'all problem is? Y'all worry about being right, but not right with y'all, right with yourself. You know what I'm saying? To be justified in your own eye. That's why Mashiach said in Matthew 11, wisdom is justified of all her children. Your desire ought to be right with Yah in every single solitary thing that you do. That's why you would go to him with soft speech. Most of y'all only go to the Most High with soft speech when you want something. Hello? You know what I'm saying? If you ever notice that, that's like when people come all humble and all that type of stuff, they only talk softly, all this, that, there, when they want something. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit back looking at him. Will he come to me with soft speech? It's a sign or showing humility. And since he did that, he said, I'll make a covenant with him. He'll be my servant forever. You understand what I'm saying? Let's sit back and see. Y'all know how he made a covenant with him, didn't he? But we're going to go ahead and look at it anyway. Let's go ahead and look at 9 and 14 of Hebrew then. Yet again. Is she going to jump, Lizzie? Is she going to jump? No, she's not going to jump.
Is she going to jump?
No, Lizzie's not going to jump. Make it 14, I should say, Hebrew 9. How much more shall the blood of Hamashiach, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? And for this cause he's the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgression that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of a necessity be the death of the testator. Now we're going to look at all this stuff, because Buddy went on a rampage about this dragon. You know what I'm saying? Because that's basically what a Leviathan is a sea dragon, right? Y'all ever see, if you don't know what it looked like, just think the Loch Ness Monster. Y'all ever heard of the Loch Ness Monster? You ever heard of it? I mean, shoot, I don't know, shoot, everybody ain't heard this. Y'all young, they don't talk about them like they did when I was y'all age. They made it seem like you had to go to Ireland to go, or Scotland, wherever you was supposed to be. They don't even talk about that stuff no more, just like they don't talk about Bigfoot no more.
Stop. Walk across the shop.
Man, I don't know all these commercials, man. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, Bigfoot.
Oh, Bigfoot, oh yeah.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, Sasquatch. Some of you niggas' feet look like a Sasquatch. Psalm 74, we don't say no names.
God, I'm trying to counteract you.
Psalm 74, he said, well, there's got to be a death of a testator. Hello? Psalm 74, verse 10. Hello?
Sit down.
What's going on?
Sit down.
Matter of fact, yeah, Psalm 74, about verse 10. I said 4, but I meant to say 10. Psalm 74 and verse 10. He said, there's got to be a death of a testator. He said, O Elohim, how long shall the adversary reproach? Shall the enemy blaspheme thy name forever? Why withdraw thou thy hand, even thy right hand, pluck it out of thy bosom? Because then them people sit back and blaspheme against this man, saying, if you be the son of Elohim, come down. All this here, my Elohim, why have you forsaken me? Ain't that what he said? Because he calling out, man, pull your right hand out of your bosom. They reproaching you. Because Romans 15 and 4. All right now. He can whoop you too. Because I can't reach him. So he going to pass it along for me. Play with it if you want. We ain't having none of that. Romans 15 and 1. Hold the Psalm 74. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves. Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. For even a Mashiach plead not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. Well, let's come back to Psalm 74. He said, how long will the adversary reproach, and shall the enemy blaspheme thy name forever? These people weren't speaking against Mashiach, they were speaking against the Father. He told you that in John 15. If they hated me, they hated him who sent me. You understand what I'm saying? He said, why don't you pull your right hand out your bosom to stop them? Let's see what verse 11 say. Verse 12 say, I should say. Psalm 74. For Elohim is my king of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. Where y'all sit back and look at something happening in the midst of the earth? Anybody? Where we see something at about salvation being worked in the middle of the earth? Where can we go back and look at something showing us a similitude of salvation going to be worked in the middle of the earth? Where can we see that? I hear a lot of silence. We got crickets going on. What's the problem here? What you say, Kingston? Don't we go look in Genesis chapter 2 and he said there was a mist that came up out of the earth. Let's go look at it and see. Genesis chapter 2, verse 6. But there went a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into the
mist. There's two different mists. One is M-I-D-S-T.
Yeah, I know it. A mist from the earth. At the time when the Garden of Eden was made.
It doesn't go. It doesn't go.
Let me show you something. Why he said it run their mouth? Because it do show to sit there working the salvation in the midst of the earth, right? Being in the middle, right? See, you supposed to be. See, he spoke too soon. Now watch how you finna get shamed. Watch how you finna get shamed. Look at him. See, all he focused on was the midst. We ain't come here for verse 6. We came here for verse 7. He said, but there went up a mist from the earth and watered the ground, the whole face of the ground. And Yah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So now we see this mist coming up out of the earth, right? This water, right? Water all the ground. And then he formed a man. And then we go and sit back and look at Mashiach when he was in the grave and that spirit was breathed in his nostril. What happened to him? Because he said work salvation in the midst of the earth. So let's go look at Luke 24. Let's see how he worked that salvation in. Got him! Got him! I know it. I still got a bunch of balls though.
I did it. Do that thing. I had 4 of them off the rip, nigga. I can run them down for you.
Run them down then, nigga.
Adam, Joseph, Daniel, Jonah.
Okay. Look at it. Look at it. Look at him over there. Look at it. Yeah, somebody on here said Joseph. Joseph wasn't who we were looking for. Somebody on here said Joseph too. Ain't nothing wrong with that, because you were right with Joseph. But guess who else he called? He called him old Jonah. How many of y'all would think about Jonah?
Not man.
He said, no. I got something else with Daniel. I got something else with Daniel. Y'all just hold on. I got something else with Daniel.
So don't even trip.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I was doing it for that thing now.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you would want to get some camera time on. Go ahead and rotate it on them. You know what I'm saying? No, don't rotate it on them. Nobody don't want to see your nipples, though. Yeah, nobody want to see your nipples. Luke 24:1. Hey, y'all calm down, all 3 of you.
I know somebody want to see my nipples.
She probably does.
She does. She likes my nipples.
Okay then. 24:2 of Luke. Stop. Both of you. Now, if I have to leave my chair, I'm going to be highly upset. And somebody getting hanged upside down and then put in the toilet or the oven. It's y'all choice. Would you like to go in the oven? Then that's where you're going. Would you like to go in the oven? Then the toilet it is. He said, they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre. And they entered in and found not the body of the Lord Yahshua. It came to pass, as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, 2 men stood by them in shining garments. And as they were afraid and bowed their faces to the earth, they said unto them, why ye seek the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the 3rd day rise again. You know the key thing and what I want y'all to focus on, what he just said. What did this angel just say, this Malachim? Because that's the Hebrew word for angel is Malachim. What did this messenger just say to these people? You know that what some of y'all be doing. Hold what you got. Come over here to Isaiah chapter 8. Y'all running around here with dead people trying to hope they live. What's wrong with you? Y'all ever seen that movie, They Live? That's how y'all be going. Somebody put them glasses on like Roddy Piper had. They'll see straight, unclean spirits. And I ain't talking about that junk like I was talking to a sister the other day. She was like, I think he got a lustful spirit on. I say, he ain't got no spirit of lust on him. He just a lustful nigga. Because she was like, I don't want to be... Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I told her like this here because she's like, I don't want that spirit to get on me. I said, that can't get on you. If that stuff ain't in your heart, can't nobody else put it in there. You know the people you come out, if you have sex with somebody, you exchange spirit. You ain't exchange nothing. If that stuff came up out of you because you had sex with somebody, that means that stuff was already in you, nigga. You don't have sex with a liar and become a liar because they a liar. That means you was already a liar. Isaiah 8 and 19. He said, when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits and unto wizards that peep and that mutter, should not as people seek unto their Elohim for the living to the dead? Do you hear what he said, seeking the wizards? So if they seeking the wizards, what they seeking after? If they seeking after a wizard, what are they seeking after? I mean, they seeking after a rebel. They seeking after somebody that don't want to follow the word. So let's look at Luke chapter 9, verse 68 before we come to Luke 24. That's what some of y'all do. Y'all like to seek to, some of y'all will go ask a dead person some advice before you ask somebody that's alive. Makes absolutely no sense. Luke 9 and 59. Because this angel, this Malachim, this messenger just asked him, why are you going to seek the living amongst the dead? How are you going to seek righteousness from people that are dead? How are you going to get life from a dead person? And he said unto another, follow me. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go bury my father. Yahshua said unto him, let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of Elohim. You know who also showed a similitude of this behavior? You come on back to Luke 24. You know who else this happened to? I'm talking about just like this, said the exact same words that this man said. Only different was the person who said it to him didn't tell him, let the dead bury the dead. No. That's not going to look.
But he did.
David did not walk up to nobody and tell them, come follow me.
That's definitely make that clear.
I mean, we just, you know, Elijah came up to Elisha and put his mantle on him. You know what I'm saying? Put that mantle on him. And he said, let me go back and kiss my mom and my daddy goodbye first. And he said, what I did to you. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Elisha was going, he had to go preach. He had to go prophesy. Now you gotta sit back and look at this. This ain't necessarily about y'all going to preach, but if the Lord then came to you and say, I'm severing you from other people that you might be mine, come follow me. Why are you trying to go back to dead people? When the Elohim of the living telling you to come after him that you might have life, but you want to go after people that's dead though. You know what I'm saying? You know, we looked at that last night, right? You know what I'm saying? We looked at that last night about that wanting to be locked in unequally yoked. About what the fathers, what Yehuda and at the time, well actually Simeon and Levi, after they had done defiled Dinah, they say, man, it's a reproach for us to be fooled up with you, man. You got to be as we are. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all, that don't bother you. That's not a dishonor to you at all whatsoever. That's why you had no problem going after the dead. That's why you had no problem with it. You're hanging with a dead nigga all day long. You sit back and look at it. You hanging with people who have no desire whatsoever to walk in the word. It's no different than you hanging out at a mortuary. You know what I'm saying? I don't think none of y'all will go hang out at a mortuary. He say, touch not the unclean thing and I will receive you. How this man going to be able to receive you when you locked in with unclean people? It makes no sense. How many of y'all think you could be around unclean people and the chances of you being made unclean is not going to happen? You think you can skate away with that? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Come on around here to Philippians chapter 2. We don't need Luke 24. He also said he'll make him a servant forever. And after that, we'll look at Isaiah 42 and 1. Because he said, will he speak softly to me? We still holding Psalm 74. Let me just go and hit this out of the way. My page is all 2 and 5 Philippians. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahshua HaMashiach, who being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Elohim, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men, and being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Wherefore Elohim hath highly exalted him, and given him a name which is above every name. You see, the key thing is he spoke them soft words, but even in the things that he suffered, he was being able to be made perfect. Because he became obedient to be humbled, and y'all exalted him for this. He made a covenant with him because of it. You understand? He became his servant forever. Stop, Leah. Isaiah 42. I seen a dude trying to explain Isaiah 53 the other day. Trying to say how it was Israel. It was one of the worst things I ever seen in my life. I mean, but the reason why I'm mentioning it is because a man will sit back around and try to remove Hamashiach out of the way by any means possible. Verse 1 of Isaiah 42. We done looked at this before, but let's look back and look at it. Behold, my servant whom I uphold, my elect in whom my soul delight. I put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not cry nor lift up nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail, nor be discouraged, till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. You know, you sit back and we look at it on Pentecost, the isles waited for his law, because all the places that they mentioned where all the people came from was the isle of the Gentile one, and they waited on it. So that makes sense when that makes perfect sense when this man sit back and say he'll bring forth judgment to the Gentile, going back again to what we were talking about last night. Because I seen a dude saying again this afternoon, if all the nations could be saved, and why he said this here. But they forget what he tell Abraham. You always got to remember this one thing, because he said this man's not going to fail in what he was going to do. Boy, Yah's word is not coming back void. Everything he said he meant. You can't pick and choose the parts that you like and the parts that you want to fit a particular view that you want to point to somebody else. See, hold on. Proverbs 30. Because see, this is what it ended up happening. Proverbs 30 and 5. See, this is what it ended up happening. You got to be careful. And it ain't just got to be talking about the words. You got to be careful now. Proverbs 30 and 5. Every word of Elohim is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. And add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a lie. See, a lot of people get found a lie all the time. And he be correcting these people, but they don't want to go ahead and do it. That's why he said don't be adding to what the man said now. But you also see the same thing where we look, he said every word of Elohim is pure. We know Yahshua HaMashiach, the word of Elohim. That's why he said if you had that hope to become the son of Elohim, and that you'll see him as he is, and you know him, you're pure even as he's pure, because the word pure ain't no sin attached to it. It's a cleaning agent. A lot of times you don't want to let it clean you. Like we were talking about last night, you don't want that pure conscience. Come on back over here to Isaiah 42. Then we'll come back to Psalm 74. He say, thus saith Elohim Yah, he that created the heavens and stretched them out. He that spread forth the earth and that which come out of it. He that give breath unto the people upon it, and to spirit to them that walk therein. I, Yah, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thy hand, and will keep thee, and will give thee for a covenant to the people, for a light of the Gentiles. Listen what he say, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Which one of the patriarchs do you know brought somebody out of a prison house? Which patriarch brought somebody out of prison? Mm-hmm. I can't hear all y'all. Y'all was talking at the same time. What you say now? Joseph brought somebody out of prison house with him, didn't he? One got killed, one came out with him, right? You know, that was back showing a similitude of what Hamashiach would do, to come free us from being prisoners. Prisoners to death. Prisoners to sin. Taking that captive. All that because, absolutely, one to be taken, one get left behind. That's definitely where Hamashiach got it from, among other places. But now we sit back and we look at something, right? He said, well, a testament is, there got to be death of a testator. So when we go back to Psalm 74, let's go back and let's look at what it say here in verse 13. He said, thou divide the sea by thy strength, and thou break the head of the dragons in the waters. Thou break the head of Leviathan in pieces, and gave him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Now, let's go over here to Ezekiel 29, son. He just said this Leviathan would be meat for people in the wilderness. So what come to your mind when you hear that? Ezekiel 29 and 2. So if he say he gonna give meat to the people in the wilderness, this Leviathan being broken two places absolutely is referring to two things. We're gonna look at them two things in a minute. But I got to show you how this man made a mockery of the word though. Ezekiel 29 and 2. Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, thus saith Yah Elohim, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lay in the midst of his rivers, which have said, my river is mine own, I have made it for myself. But I will put hooks in thy jaws, and I will cause the fish of the rivers to stick unto thy scales. And I will bring thee up out of the midst of thy rivers, and all the fish of thy rivers shall stick unto thy scales. And I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, thee and all the fish of thy rivers. Thou shalt fall upon the open fields. Thou shalt not be brought together nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the field and to the fowls of heaven. And all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am Yah, because they have been a staff of a reed to the house of Israel. And when they took hold of thee by thy hand, thou did break and rent all their shoulder. And when they leaned upon thee, they brake and made all their loins to be a stand. Therefore, thus saith Yah Elohim, behold, I will bring a sword upon thee, and cut off man and beast out of thee, and the land of Egypt shall be desolate and waste, and they shall know that I am Yah, because he hath said, the river is mine, I have made it. Now, we just heard this man say something in Isaiah 42. What did he say in Isaiah 42? He said that he made the heavens and stretched it out. Say he made the earth and put the breath of life in man and everything, right? Now he said he going to destroy the king of Egypt because this man turned around and said, the river is mine, I made it for myself. He said he lie in the midst of the rivers, and he will cause the fish of the rivers to stick to thy scales. Hold this Ezekiel 29, and let's look at 41, and let's see what he said about this Leviathan, about his scales. See, what we were trying to explain to this man is verse 15 of Job 41. Make it 12. What we were trying to explain to this man is, why would the Most High Yah give a testimony of the devil? You know what I'm saying? What the wickedness of Pharaoh is Pharaoh. But in everything, it said Pharaoh, king of Egypt. What is a Mashiach, right? King of kings, right? So that means even in that, there can be a testimony. Just like we seen the king of Ai. He was wicked, but yet we see his death was a testimony of Mashiach. This man was hung from a tree to the going down to the sun. Same way when we looked at the book of Joshua and seen they did that with them 10 kings. Killed them all, put them in a cave, hung them from trees till the sun went down. And when the sun went down, they put them in a cave, threw rocks on the cave. You know what I'm saying? So you going to say that's not about a Mashiach because these 10 kings are evil? Or you can't realize that these men were walking something out, testifying to somebody else, and what they did is what they did. You know what I'm saying? That ain't got nothing to do with a Mashiach. You know what I'm saying? That ain't got nothing to do with him. That's their stuff. Let that stay over there with them. 41 and 12, book of Job.
Yeah, look at that. Stop.
Listen what he said. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Listen what he said. Who can discover the face of his garment? Who can come to him with his double bridle? Before we go any further, hold on. Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride. Shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. Listen what he said. They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be sundered. You know what that means? It can't be sundered, right? Can't be taken apart. Can't be broken. So what y'all think this could mean when he said, I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion? Romans 16:24. After that, second, I think it's 1 Timothy 3 and 16. We'll see if that's what I want. Romans 16:24. Sit. Kingston, sit up, man. What you sitting there like an old man? I forgot you is an old man. How old are you, Kingston? You don't know? How old are you? Would you like something to eat? Eat? Say, Mama, where my meatloaf at? Say, Mama, where my meatloaf? I don't know what he just said, but it definitely wasn't meatloaf. I'm not going to try to repeat that. He said, the grace of our Lord Yahshua HaMashiach be with you all. So be it. Now to him that is of power to establish you according to my gospel and the preaching of Yahshua HaMashiach, according to the revelation of the mystery which was kept secret since the world began, but now is made manifest, and by the scriptures of the prophets according to the commandment of the everlasting Elohim, made known to all nations for the obedience of faith. Because what did the Mashiach tell his disciples? Many righteous men sought to see the things that you see and have not seen them, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he also tell them if they had eyes to see and ears to hear, they could believe and be converted? You know what I'm saying? He said, I will no longer conceal his power. Was his power concealed? You sit back and look at something. This man was walking in the earth. He no longer concealed his power. This man was walking on the earth, raising the dead, forgiving sins, healing the lame, opening the eyes of the blind, unstopping the ears of the deaf. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, since we sit back and mention this here about the fit, come over here to John chapter 6 before it slipped my mind. Since we sitting back talking about his flesh going to be for me and all this other stuff for him in the wilderness, let's see what John 6 says. John 6, verse 5. When Yahshua then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company shall come unto him, he saith unto Philip, whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? This he said to prove him, for he knew himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, there's a lad here, which have 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. But what are they among so many? Yahshua said, make men sit down. Now there was so much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. Yahshua took the loaves, and when he gave thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. And when they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves which remained over and above unto them that eat. Didn't they sit back and say something about them scales? None of it would be lost. Let me double check now. I don't want to quote the man wrong. Let me make sure. Said it ain't said none of it would be lost now. Let's make sure that's what it says. Let's make sure that's what it says. That might have been over here in 29. Ezekiel. Let me check Ezekiel, because we still hold Ezekiel 29, Psalm 74, Job 41. I don't want to quote the man wrong. You see what I just read here. My river's my own, stick to the scales. I bring all the fish, lead the fish. Thou shalt not be brought together nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the field and to the fowls of the heaven. Now I'm sitting back looking at, he said how he took all this bread, right? And none of it would be lost and go to waste, right? Gathered up all together. What color your mind when you hear that there about gathered all together? Nothing's going to be wasted. Nothing going to be left over.
Give it here. Give it here, Lord.
The son that comes, even with the manna, right? He said nothing be left to waste, right? Let's sit back and look at something in John 17. John 17, son of the Lord told us this, we're praying to the Father. Look at about verse 10. We come back to Job 41. You whole picture, come on back around here to Job 41. John 17:10, all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I'm glorified in them. And now I'm no more in the world, but these are in the world. And I come to thee, Kodesh, Father, keep through thy own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gave me, I have kept. None of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. We sit back, see this man gathering his bread and his meat, keep all this here, going back to what we looked at in Malachi. Bring meat into my storehouse, keep that right there. Don't let none of that get lost. See, you know, Paul wrote to us in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, if a man be lost, he lost because the Elohim of this world has blinded his mind. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody who's of Yah be lost. It's going back to what we look at, because he said one is near to another, that no air can come between them. They join together, they stick together. They can't be broken up or separated. See, come over here and look at John 10:25. Everything that's of the Lord, the Lord ain't going to lose nothing belong to him. Yahshua answered them, I told you and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you believe not, because you are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. That means we real close. Can't no air even get in between it. Can't nobody break it. That go back to what Amashiach said. What Elohim has brought together, what he said? Don't let a man put asunder. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit back and look at, you need to be joining yourself to Yah. Now all this is about a Leviathan. This is about a sea beast that he say is the devil. You know what I'm saying? That he say is the devil. Now we know that he concealed Mashiach's power. Let's look at 1 Timothy 3:16. Let's see what Timothy say about it. Because the disciples said, we bear witness that he rose from the dead. We seen it. After that, John 21. I just got to clear that up. I don't know if none of y'all seen it. What he was talking about. Brother meant well. But well ain't always going to do it. He made a meant well. You can mean well and still go to hell. He say, and without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. Elohim was manifested in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentile, believed on in the world, received up in the glory. That means I no longer concealed his secret parts or his power or his comely proportion. You know, comely meaning beauty. They seen the beauty of Kodesh. Remember when he said there was no beauty that we would desire him, it's because there wasn't no beauty for them to desire him after what they did to him. Remember he had a visage more than any man. You know full well you done beat a man like that, you ain't going to say, boy, that's something to look at right there. You know, you had dudes really out here talking about the Lord was ugly. When he come from the seed of a man who said he had a beautiful countenance. I know some of y'all done heard people say the Lord was ugly because he said there was no beauty in him that we would desire. They automatically thought outward. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. Let's sit back and look at something now. Hold on. Hold on now. That'll make me get where I was finna go at. Oh, John 21. Thank the Lord. John 20. Actually, John 20 and 29.
Sit down.
Leah, what is your problem? See, you always think somebody playing with you.
Stop.
Yahshua said unto them, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. And many other signs truly did Yahshua in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that you might believe that Yahshua is the Hamashiach, the son of Elohim, and that believing you might have life through his name. We also know in the 21st chapter of this thing, it said many other things Yahshua did, which if they were written, the whole world wouldn't be able to contain the books that were written, which means I would no longer conceal his secret parts. I will show all things that he has done. You know what I'm saying? Or at least the things you need to know to save your soul, as forth as what's written. But you got to remember, when this man was in the flesh on the earth, he didn't hide nothing. Look what he told him in John chapter 15. Look what he told him in John chapter 15, verse 15. I still got something else in Proverbs I want to look at. Leah, stop. Sit down. Henceforth I call you not servants, for a servant know not what his Lord do, but I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. Meaning I ain't concealing nothing. They saw this man. You don't think they seen his comely proportion? How did they see his comely proportion? Huh? How did they see his comely proportion? How did they see the beauty of his proportion? Well, Luke 24 and 36. Let's see how they seen his comely proportion. After that, Romans chapter 8, verse 35. Stop hitting, Lizzie. Now I'm going to ask y'all a question. What does the book, when they say the rivers, what do the rivers represent? And that Ezekiel 29, because we still hold Ezekiel 29, Psalm 74, and Job 41. When we look at Ezekiel 29, right, I'm going to go back and look at it, right. He say, Pharaoh, the great dragon that lie in the midst of his rivers, in the midst of his rivers, which have said, my river is my own. I have made it for myself. He said, I put hooks in thy jaws, and will cause the fish of thy rivers to stick unto thy scales. I will bring thee up out of the midst of thy rivers, and all the fish of thy rivers shall stick unto thy scales. I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, thee and all the fish of thy rivers. Thou shalt fall upon the open fields. Thou shalt not be brought together nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the field. What are these rivers? No, that ain't talking about no spirit. He say he dwell in the midst of the rivers, and I'm going to bring you up out of the rivers. This actually, I'm going to show you to they're talking about the people. You know, the people actually referred to as waters in this book, right? Y'all do know that, right? 20, a river and sea, same thing. 24:36. And as they thus spake, Yahshua himself stood in the midst of them and said unto them, peace be unto you. But they were affrighted, terrified, and affrighted, supposed that they had seen a spirit. And he said unto them, why are ye troubled? Why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see. For a spirit have not flesh and bones, as you see me have. And when he had thus spoken, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they yet believed not for joy and wondered, he said unto them, have you here any meat? They gave him a piece of broiled fish and of a honeycomb. And he took it and did eat before them. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses, and in the prophets, and in the song concerning me. You see this Leviathan, a piece of, basically a sea creature. You see Hamashiach sitting here eating this sea creature. Next thing you know, he's showing them the whole book by him. So not only did they see his comely proportion, because they seen his glory of his body from the resurrection of the dead. Like Paul said, we look to have our vile body fashioned like unto his glorious body. That's why the Apostle John wrote, we don't know how he will be, but we shall see him as he is, because we know him, though the world know him not. Remember, Hamashiach told you in John 15, the spirit of truth, the world can't receive it because the world doesn't know it. They don't know him. They can't see him. So therefore his power and his comely proportion is concealed to them. Now we get the opportunity to be able to see that concealment, to see that great mystery that's been manifested that was kept secret since the world began. And we finna be walking around here stupid, seeking after the dead instead of seeking after the living. When the law say, I'm a companion of them that fear thee, but yet y'all companions of sinners and love it. Listen, nobody cares. It's something just to think about now. It's just something to think about. Now let me show y'all this Revelation 17 to show you these seas also being symbolic of the people. Or it's actually say water. 17 to 15. I got to deal with one thing too. I seen a dude talking about if he got to go to hell for self-defense, he going to hell. I'm going to sit back and show you. Hey, don't be no fool. Don't be no fool. Don't be no fool. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou saw where the horse sit are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So come back to Ezekiel 29 now, and maybe Ezekiel 29 will make a lot more sense now. He said right here in verse 3 of this 29th chapter of the book of the prophet Ezekiel. Speak and say, thus saith Yah Elohim, I am against thee. We still holding Romans 8 and 35 too. He said he was against him. We know when Hamashiach became sin, was not the Father against him? Did he not turn to him to be his enemy? Did he not fight against him? He said he didn't spare his own son. That's what Paul wrote us in the 8th chapter of the Epistle of Romans. He said, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lie in the midst of his rivers. Of his rivers. That means he was in the midst of his people. Which has said, my river is my own. I made it for myself. Well, let's look at John 1 and 1 then. After John 1 and 1, Colossians 1 and 12. He said, I made these rivers for myself. Y'all some hard-headed little children. Hard head leads to tan bums. Ain't nobody believe it. We'll think it's a game. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. Hold on. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. We don't even need Colossians chapter 1. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shined in darkness, and the darkness comprehended not. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was John. The same came for a witness to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which light every man that come into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. What did he just say about Pharaoh then? What did he just say about Pharaoh? He just said Pharaoh was in the line in the midst of his rivers, which said, my river is my own. I made it for myself. We just seen it said everything was made by him and for him. Don't you know when the Mashiach walked around, he talked about everything as if it was his? Some people looked at him like he was crazy. You don't y'all know when he told the people before Abraham was, I am my Father are one. You basically saying you made everything. You basically saying we belong to you. And them people wanted to kill him behind that, didn't they? You know, Paul wrote to us in Colossians. We got to get it. He say, hey man, all things were made by him and for him. And without him was not anything that was made. Therefore, he is the firstborn from the dead and the head of the body, that in all things he might have preeminence. You sit back and see, this man just sat back and said right here in this 29th chapter that he lay in the midst of these rivers. I'm going to put hooks in your jaws and cause the fish of the rivers to stick to thy scales. Now, if the fish of the river stop, it's not time for that. If the fish of the river is supposed to be sticking to his scales, what is he talking about? When we already consider that the scales will be so close, there won't even be no air in between them. They can't even be broken up. Hush. Yes, sir. Let's finish this Psalm 74 out. Let's finish that out. Just read that verse one more time. We can let that alone. Y'all with me so far? Y'all all right? Let's read verse 14 one more time now. He said, thou break the heads of the Leviathan in pieces, and gave him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Thou did cleave the fountain in the flood, thou dried up mighty rivers. The day is thine, the night also is thine. Thou hast prepared the light and the sun. Thou hast set all the borders of the earth, thou hast made summer and winter. Remember this, that the enemy have reproached, O Yah, and that foolish people have blasphemed thy name. O deliver not the soul of thy turtle dove unto the multitude of the wicked. Forget not the congregation or the body of thy poor forever, or the body of the humble. Remember, Mashiach say, learn of me, I'm meek and lowly of heart. Don't forget the humble. Don't forget those who come to thee with soft word. Don't forget those that have a contrite spirit. Don't forget those who fear thee and follow thee and obey thee. Have respect unto the covenant, for dark places of the earth are full of the inhabitations of cruelty. Now, he just said this here. Now, Troy already mentioned it. What did Mashiach tell these people? Let's look in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, 1. He said this Leviathan was for meat in the wilderness. What's the word wilderness? What that take you back to when you hear wilderness? What's the first thing ought to come to your mind? Sin. That's what they called it. So he said, I'm going to break meat for the people in sin. And this nigga think this about a dragon? He think that's the devil? When did he ever break the devil in pieces for people to eat him in the wilderness? This is the type of stuff people be missing. Don't even sit there and think about it. Because they see dragon. They see Leviathan being a sea creature. Who you looking at like that, boy? Okay, tighten up there. They see dragon automatically. That's got to be the devil. Got to look at it first. Make sure it ain't the devil before you open your mouth. You be done blaspheme. 1 Corinthians 11 and 23. For I have received of the Lord that which I also delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahshua the same night in which he was betrayed took bread, and when he given thanks he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. And after the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye, as oft as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Lord's death till he come. So if you eat this man's body, then guess what that would mean? Hebrews chapter 10, about verse 17. You know, I was talking to Trav about this last night. I meant to mention this before we started. Do y'all know off the top of y'all head, if we say start from quote unquote, when these people calendar year start January the 1st, to when these people quote unquote year end December 31st, how many times do you think at the most that you can hear the word in 1 year? I'll let y'all stew on that before we read the Hebrew 10 and I'm going to make it 13. Just period. I'm talking about how many times maximum do you think the word could be preached? I'm talking about using the standard way of thing. I'm going to get to you in a minute. Hold on. Hebrew 10 and 14. Just sit back and think about it. He say, for by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. Wherefore the Ruach HaKodesh also is a witness to us. For after that he had said before, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith Yah. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them. And their sins and iniquities I will remember no more. Now where remission of these is, there is no more offering for sin. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the Kodesh by the blood of Yahshua, by a new and living way, which he have consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh. This man just said that this man has consecrated a new and living way by this man's flesh. He said there can no covenant be made except by the death of a testator. And you see this man taking a Leviathan, cutting him up for meat, to give to those that are in sin. And therefore he created the light, he formed the day, because in him was the light was the light of men. The light is symbolic of eternal life. And then he turned around and said, remember the body of your humbled ones, and remember the covenant because of cruelty. Because he spoke soft words, raised him from the dead because of the strong tears and supplications that he showed, and the things that he suffered, he learned obedience to be the author of eternal salvation to all those that obey him. Yeah. So that means you're going to have to sit back and look at this Leviathan being cut up for meat to those in the wilderness. It's not only just a similitude of Hamashiach giving fish to people in the wilderness when they were walking. It was symbolic of this man giving his body to feed the people. And then when you fed in the Mashiach, you become one with him. You heard what he said?
Stop.
I consecrated them through the veil, and that my law will be in their heart. If his law is in your heart, that means you will be born of Elohim, which means what? If you're born of Elohim, it means what? If you're born of Elohim, it means what? What did the book say? He that is born of Elohim, he that is born of Elohim sins not. He cannot sin. Which means there be no air, there be no separation from you and your power. How could you turn away? See, look at Hebrews chapter 6. Right here in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 5. Make it verse 4. You're not going to turn from the word. He say no air can come in. Can't be brought asunder. Say it would, even if it were possible to see the very elect, if it was possible. You sit back and look at it. He say he will not fail nor be discouraged. He will not fail nor be discouraged. Hamashiach told you, he that endured to the end, the same shall be saved. That means the same thing going to apply to you. You can't fail nor be discouraged. He say his fish will cleave to his scales. He say his scales are close as a seal. Can't be broken. Ain't no air in between. You know, if there's air in between, that means there's a separation. Say ain't going to be no separation between you and your power. If you dwell in him, he dwell in you. Lizzie, hush. Hush it up. Hush that noise, Lizzie. Fix your face. Hush, Piggy. 6 and 4, Hebrews. For it is impossible for those who were once enlightened and have tasted of the heavenly gift and were made partakers of the Ruach HaKodesh and have tasted the good word of Elohim and the powers of the world to come, if they should fall away, to renew them again unto repentance, seeing they crucified to themselves the Son of Elohim afresh and put him to an open shame. This man say it's impossible. He said if you've been partakers of the Ruach HaKodesh, which means you've been partakers of the divine nature, which means you have been made one with Yah. That's what the Son prayed for, right? He said that we might be one as we are. He said, I ain't lost none of them which you gave me but the son of perdition, because he was never none of ours anyway. He said, can't no man pluck them out of my hand, meaning there's no air. Ain't going to be no separation. Come on back and look at that Job 41 so you can see what the man says so y'all can catch what I'm talking about. Y'all all right this evening? Y'all sound dead. Look at verse 17 one more time. They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be asunder. See, back it up to verse 15. He said, his scales are as pride shut up together as with a close seal. One is near to another, that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be asunder. They cannot be sundered. Listen what else he say. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his all eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, sparks of fire leap out. How do you think this man's mouth like a burning lamp and sparks of fire come out of his mouth? How did the words of this man's mouth go like burning lamps and fire leap out? When you seen the Ruach HaKodesh coming on the apostles on Pentecost, it said it was like on fire. Flames. See, you know. All this going back to the key thing of what we looked at. I work salvation in the midst of the earth. Because when this man rose up out the grave, he worked salvation in the midst of the earth. When he put this man in the grave, that was man was working salvation then. When he rose up from the grave, his salvation was going to endure from generation to generation. Why? Because the man spoke soft words. Why? Because I made a covenant with him and he became my servant. Leah, stop. Boy, you better be lucky I'm over here. Because you tested it. You tested it. Find you somebody to play with. So when you sit back, how is his scales his pride? I'm going to show y'all something else in Proverbs 18:24. If his scales is his pride, somebody see that Leviathan had pride. See, a Mashiach ain't had no pride. We his glory, ain't it? We his esteem. Don't you think if his scales are those who be joined with him, that would be his pride? Look, these my sons. I'm proud of them. I don't see how nobody wouldn't be proud of their workmanship. Proverbs 18:24. Listen to what this man say. A man that have friends must show himself friendly. There is a friend that stick closer than a brother. Then look at Proverbs 17:17. A friend love at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. This man say a friend love at all times, a brother born for adversity. He say a friend, a man that have friends got to show himself friendly. There's a friend that stick closer than a brother. Now how did a Mashiach show himself friendly? He ain't just do that when he showed himself friendly. Let's sit back and show how he showed himself friendly. Come on around here. Let's look at. Let me show the first instant way he showed himself friendly. Luke chapter 19, verse 1. He said, a friend love at all times. Saying a brother's born for adversity. Said, man that have friends must show himself friendly. And there'll be a friend that stick closer than a brother. Let's see what Luke 19:1 says. Yahshua entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Yahshua, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was of little stature. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass by that way. And when Yahshua came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. He made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was going to be a guest with a man that is a sinner. Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, behold, Lord, half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have taken anything away from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. Yahshua said unto him, this day is salvation come to this house, forasmuch also as he is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save them which was lost. He said, a man that have friends got to show himself friendly, right? Ain't that what he just said? What is the book called, Abraham? Friend of the Most High. So that means if Abraham is friend and there's a man who got a friend, that means he got to show himself friendly then, don't he? Let's look and see where else Mashiach show himself to be friendly. Let's go over here and let's look at Luke chapter 13 and verse 10. And after we look at that, we'll look at Ephesians 4 and 15. It's amazing how men can see this stuff and make great, horrible mistakes. You got to be careful what you say out your mouth. You might be uttered the wrong words.
Mommy.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at Luke 13 and 10. And as he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years and was bowed together and could no wise lift up herself. And when Yahshua saw her, he called her to him and said unto him, Woman, thou art loose from thine infirmity. And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight and glorified Elohim. And the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation because that Yahshua had healed on the Sabbath day, and said unto the people, There are 6 days in which men ought to work. In them therefore come and be healed, and not on the Sabbath day. The Lord then answered him and said, Thou hypocrite, doth not each one of you on the Sabbath loose his ox or his ass from the stall, and lead him away to water it? Ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan hath bound, lo, these 18 years be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day? And when he had said these things, all his adversaries were ashamed. And all the people rejoiced for all the glorious things that were done by him. See how he didn't conceal his power or his comely proportion. Y'all see that? Do you see how he say this daughter of Abraham ought to be loose from this? Because a man that got friends got to show himself friendly. Y'all don't sit back and look at all the things Hamashiach did. He was showing himself to be friendly. Even with him giving them that food in the wilderness or the fish and the bread. He said, I can't let them go no further lest they faint in the way. These people were following him. Because a man that has friends got to show himself friendly. You know what I'm saying? That's shit back showing up. If you got friends, you supposed to be friendly. Can't be no old selfish, old rotten, no good, spoiled bastard. You got people always talking about, I ain't friendly. Well, nigga, you ain't a God then, nigga. Hold on. Hebrews 13:1. We'll get back to, we still holding Romans 8:34. We'll get Ephesians 4:15. Some way or another, we got to make all this stuff come together and make sense. Come here, Tizzy. Come here, Tizzy, listen. Hebrews 13:1. Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware. See, some of you niggas that ain't friendly. That's why he say he that have friends got to show himself friendly. Because we look at Samson mama. She entertained an angel. She didn't know it. What if she'd have been nasty to him? Lot, Abraham, they entertained angels. What if they would have been nasty to him? You see what I'm saying? I done had people sit back and be like, man, that could have been an angel. Not sitting out there with a Colt 45 in a Newport. Remember, my homeboy used to get mad, man, that lady was an angel. Nigga, ain't no female angels in this book, nigga. Where you get that from? Talk about that woman was an angel. Nigga, slap yourself. Then they say the morning stars, the son of Elohim shouted for joy. Not the daughters of Elohim shouted for joy. Come on around here to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15. That's why if you're going to be friendly, you're going to be of the Lord. He got like this here. Then he say a friend, love at all times. We already know John 15:13 say greater love had no man than this, that a man lay his life down for a friend. Hamashiach showed love to his friends at all times. He said, I ever live to make intercession for my friend. He said, you my friends, if you do whatsoever I command you. That's when you my friend. That's what made Abraham the friend of Elohim. He did whatsoever Yah told him to do. That's why he said Elohim is able to deliver the godly out of temptation. Because a brother is fit for adversity. But we're going to look at Romans 8:34 in a minute. Let's get to Ephesians 4:15. He say them scales stick close together. Can't be broken. Nigga around here talking about that's the devil. They say silly rabbit tricks are for kids. 4:15. Matter of fact, make it 13. Ephesians 4:13. Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Mashiach, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men, cunning craftiness, whereby they lay in wait to deceive. That way y'all better sit back and be careful, because Paul already told Timothy, he said, deceivers shall wax worse and worse, being deceived and deceiving. Out here lying to people. Getting lied to. We know how they being deceived, because he showed you that in 1 Kings chapter 22 when he sent a lying spirit to all the king's prophets. So they going to be deceived, and then they going to be out here lying to people. So you better not be like little kids getting tossed to and fro. Better not be like a piece of paper in the wind floating around because you're running after every wind of doctrine. Better have yourself rooted and established and settled. He say, but speaking the truth in love, that we might grow up unto him in all things, which is the head, even of Hamashiach, from whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted. You know if something is compacted, ain't no air between it, right? Y'all done seen a crash compactor before? They crush all that stuff down, ain't no air in it. Even another word for compacted is compress. And I know some of you niggas know about compression. Because some of you niggas used to buy that compressed weed. You know what I'm talking about. He say from whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supply, according to the effectual working up in the measure of every part, making the increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. So we know Paul, let's look what Paul also said in Acts 17. Kingston, you all right? You want a snack? Little mama, can you give him a snack? 17, Acts, verse 27. Verse 26 is better. Have made one blood of all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and have determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek the Lord if happily they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain as also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. If we are his offspring, that means we will be born of him, which means we will be those fishes that Ezekiel talked about would stick to the scales of that dragon, or quote unquote Pharaoh, king of Egypt. We would stick to him. Because he said there's a brother there's a friend that stick closer than a brother. See, let's go back and look at Hebrews 13 again, and let's look at what the man said. Hebrews 13 and 5. Let your behavior be without covetousness. That's what y'all need to sit back and look at. Everything you do, your conduct should be without coveting things that don't belong to you. If it's not yours, get your heart and mind off of it. You know what I'm saying? We looked at that last week. That's what the scribes and Pharisees did. Their behavior was with covetous. Because they had already was mad at Hamashiach when he went off on them. They said they derided him because they knew that they were covetous. You know what I'm saying? And then he went off on them again because these people were coveting his wife. You gotta make sure that type of stuff don't fall into your heart, because then sin gonna rule over you. And you know what I'm saying? And then they lie at the door. And you know what lie at the door? Death gonna be at the door. Ain't gonna be like Pop say death gonna be around the corner. It's gonna be right at your front door. Let your behavior be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. For he has said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do unto me. Because he told you he's in you all and through all. Paul mentioned that earlier in the 4th chapter of the Epistle of Ephesians. In you all and through all. Fitly compacted. Because he said his scales are his pride. If that's his pride, that means that's his praise. And if that's his praise, what that mean, everybody? If the scales are his pride, and his pride would be praise, then what is his praise then? What does that come to your mind? I just told y'all last night. Nobody got the faintest idea. That's bad for business. I'll give you a few moments to think about it. Anybody, if the scales are his pride, and his pride for all intents and purposes would be his praise, then what are we talking about here, people? Now this is bad. Nobody knows. If his scales are his pride, and his pride is his praise, then who would we be talking about? We will be talking about Yehuda, because Yehuda is the praise of Yah. See, I'm over here in Psalms chapter 50. It's 50th division of Psalms. We are the praise of Yah when we actually walk in Yah. 50th division of Psalms. Let me get them. I just had told y'all that last night that Yehuda meant praise. I didn't get to this last night, but we're going to get to it tonight. I want you to look at, let's look at verse 1 first. We're going to work our way around. The mighty Elohim, even Yah, hath spoken and called the earth from the rising of the sun unto the going down thereof. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, Elohim shine. You already know Elohim shine. We already looked at that in Luke 24. We seen the perfection of beauty. I didn't conceal his comely proportion. Our Elohim shall come and shall not keep silence. A fire shall devour before him. It shall be very tempestuous round about him. He shall call to the heavens from above and to the earth, that he may judge his people. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Sit back, same thing we looking at. Got to be the death of a testator. We see Hamashiach, he said, will he make a covenant with you? Will he be a servant? I gave him for meat. That meat was to sit back showing you forth the covenant, because I'm finna die. Come on, same 50th division of Psalms. Let's look at verse 23. Whoso offer praise or offer Yehuda, offer Judah, glorify me. To him that order his behavior aright, will I show the salvation of Elohim. Look at 2 Corinthians 7 and 1. Go ahead and get it, Tizzy. We still holding Romans 8 and 34. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting codestiness in the fear of Elohim. Now this man promised us the kingdom. He promised us eternal life. He said, he that offereth praise, glorify me. He that order his behavior aright. Well, how would you offer praise to Yah then, everybody? How would you offer praise? By serving him. By serving him. When we look at Hamashiach, did he not offer praise to Elohim by his service? Because he ordered his behavior right? Did not the Father raise him from the dead? Come on around here to Titus, 3rd chapter, I believe that'll come to my mind. Titus 3. Look at verse 4. But after that, the kindness and love of Elohim, our Savior, toward man appeared. Not by works of righteousness which we have done, but according to his mercy he saved us, by the washing of regeneration and the renewing of the Ruach HaKodesh, which he shed on us abundantly through Yahshua HaMashiach, our Savior, that being justified by his grace, we should be made heirs according to the hope of eternal life. This is a faithful saying. And these things I will that thou affirm constantly, that they which believe in Elohim might be careful to maintain unto good works. These things are good and profitable unto men. So I think it would be good for y'all to do that as well. Because he said, gather my saints together that made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Yahshua ended up getting the praise of Elohim because he made a covenant with Yah by sacrifice. We know Romans 12 and 1 tells us that we ought to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice. That is our reasonable service. And therefore offering that praise to Yah and ordering our behavior right, Yahshua will allow us to be heirs to enter into the kingdom. Look at Romans 8 and 34. We've been holding it for the longest. See, that's the same way here. You're going to have to be willing to give yourself up, which is going to tie into what I was talking about Buddy talking about, I'm going to defend myself and go to hell. You know you got to be dumb when you say, if I got to go to hell for something, oh well. You got to know that's the dumbest thing to ever say out your mouth, right? Y'all do know that, right? I hope y'all don't think I'm asking that to hear myself asking. Y'all do that. Y'all do know that there's absolutely nothing on this planet worth going to hell for. Nothing. Just like I was telling y'all what me and Trav were talking about last night. And I done said it to other people at other time. Your desire ought to be right with Yah. Not to be right in your own eyes. To be right with Yah. That's why he say there's a man that loveth all times, and he stick and a brother is made for adversity. And we're going to show you how Hamashiach is made to be a brother with you even in adversity. But see, the things in adversity, they can't see that because they don't believe. 8 and 34. Who is he that condemned? Is it Mashiach that died, yea, rather that is risen again? Who is even at the right hand of Elohim, who also make intercession for us? Because a man who have friends show himself friendly. And there's a friend that stick closer than a brother. This man say it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he could be a faithful and merciful high priest and all the things that pertain to Elohim to make reconciliation for the people. This man showed himself friendly. This man say a man lay his life down for his friends. And he did that. And then after that, he stick closer than a brother because he dwell in you and you dwell in him. Your brother don't dwell in you. You don't dwell in your brother. But yet you can't come to this man with soft word. But yet you can't make a covenant with this man by sacrifice. You can't give yourself up. You can't suffer in the flesh to cease from sin like Peter instructed you to, because Hamashiach had that mind to do the same thing. You steady want to please yourself. We just read Romans 15 earlier. That man said you ought to please not yourself, but please your brother. He said, who shall separate us from the love of Hamashiach? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. This man just sat back and said we counted as sheep for the slaughter. Somebody need to mute your phone, man. Pay attention to what y'all doing. Pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to what you're doing. This man said we counted sheep for the slaughter. We counted as sheep for the slaughter now. Keep that in mind. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. He says, so even if we got to fall by the sword, all this trouble, we are able to overcome all those things through him that loved us, because there's a brother made for adversity. Stick closer than a brother, a friend. He said, I'm persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Yahshua HaMashiach our Lord. How can you be able to be separated from the love of Yah based on the things that happen in this world? Because this man, let's look at what the master told Pilate in John 18:36. We already looked back not too long ago. What did he tell Peter when Peter lifted up that sword and cut that man in half? What did he tell Peter? What did he tell Peter? I'm not asking this to myself. He said, he that killeth with the sword shall be killed with the sword. So what was he telling Peter? He said, can I call upon my Father right now for 12 legions of angels? But how would the scriptures be fulfilled? So he wasn't even looking to seek to defend himself, even though he had a whole bunch of men willing to do it.
Sit down.
He had men willing to do it. That man said, I could pray and we could smash all of them.
Sit down.
John 18:36, Yahshua answered, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. When we sit back and we look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and we look at Daniel, when they came against them men, did those men fight? See, we're not even going to use the example of Jeremiah or any of those who got ran up on Hebrews. These men were ran up on by heathens who were coming to kill them. They ain't did nothing wrong. Did they fight? See, you got to know, it's like he told you, there's a time for war. There's a time to fight. There's a time for peace. You got to know when to fight, when not to fight. Hamashiach will let Peter know this not the time. In due 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 time. Revelation 2 and 10. Look what the Lord told him. Revelation 2 and 10. For fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. Just like Joseph got cast into prison. They threw Daniel in the lion's den, hoping he would be slaughtered. Same thing with the 3 Kodesh children, hoping they would be slaughtered. And you shall have tribulation 10 days, but be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Come over here to the 12th chapter of Revelation. Look at what this man sat back and spoke about these men. Revelation 12 and 10. 12 and 9. After we look at Revelation 12 and 9, we'll read Revelation 14 and 13. Matter of fact, Revelation 14 and 10. Matter of fact, make it 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim and the power of his Mashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. We seen that with Daniel. We even seen that with Jeremiah when they wanted to kill Jeremiah. Jeremiah say, do what you seen right unto you, but no, you shed innocent blood. Look at David. These men didn't love, they were willing to die behind this. When it came down to dishonoring their Elohim or saving their own life, he that save his life shall lose it. He that loses his life shall save it. Those men were willing to die. Therefore, they were redeemed. What you willing to do? 14 and 9, Revelation. He said they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, which means there was a brother born for adversity. Say a friend loveth at all times, and there's a brother, and he said, and a brother made for a friend, made for adversity. Don't you think that's an adverse situation when they sit back coming to kill him? And you see that look like a son of Elohim in that furnace of fire for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. There was a son of Elohim in there. Protect them. He sent an angel to shut them out for the lion to protect Daniel. Because there's a man that stick closer than a brother. And he was built for adversity. So you sit back and look at that. That ain't also just dealing with, even when we look at Paul, when the people made an oath to stone him. When we look at when they did that, beat Peter and whipped Peter and the other apostles. They sat back and known, they rejoiced they were able to suffer for his name because they know that there was a brother made for adversity. Even in tough situations, y'all going to be there if you keep standing. All you got to do is keep standing on the word. The man said there's a brother, there's a friend that love him for all time. He said, I love you always, even to the end of the world. Ain't that what the Lord told him? I don't know. Y'all sitting there, I don't know. I guess y'all don't know if the Lord told them or not. Y'all do know that what he told them in Matthew 28, right? Told he loved them always, even to the end of the world, right? He said in John 13, he said he loved his own. Well, he said, I'm with you always, which means he stick closer than a friend. He said in John 13, what did he say? He loved his own, even to the end. Ain't that what he said? Loved his own. Because his scales are his pride. We the glory of him. We the glory of the Father through Hamashiach. We the scales of his pride. We the glory of Yah. That's why he said that we should shine his lights in the world unto a crooked and perverse generation. That man said he loved his own all the way to the end. So brother made for adversity. You just sit back and look at it. It don't matter what you're going through, whether you're broke, whether you're hungry, whatever it is you're dealing with, persecution because of the word, you know what I'm saying, whether it be looking at death. When we look at Hebrews chapter 11, it said there were men of the faith that turned around delivering that they might obtain a better resurrection because they know this man stayed closer than a brother and a friend that's made for adversity because they know he loved him at all times. He said Daniel was a man greatly beloved. Said Amashah, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. He said, I will never leave you, never forsake you. He said, you my friends, if you do whatsoever I tell you to do. That's something to think about now. 14 and 9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the Kodesh angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascend up forever and ever. And they had no rest day or night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever received the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahshua. Why else would you have that unless you know you had a friend that loved him for all times and he was made for adversity? Because he say the patience of the saints is those that they know, even though we know that if I do this, I'm going to perish. But because I believe in Yah and I don't love my own life, I'll perish than to take that. Because I'm going to do what Yah told me to do. Because I believe in a Mashiach, which I'm going to believe if he rose a Mashiach from the dead, then he'll quicken my mortal bodies and raise me with him like Paul told us in Romans. But dudes don't believe that because they know he's not going to quicken their mortal body. Nigga going to hell. They know it. They know it. Listen to the next thing he said here in verse 13. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Right, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. We know from Revelation 6, he said he seen men on the altar. He said, man, are you going to avenge our blood? He said, man, rest for a little season. Man gave him white robes. He said, to the rest of your brethren are killed like you are. Because even in that adverse situation when you facing death, Yah is still with you because you are dwelling in him and he dwelling in you because you the scales of his pride. No air can come between that. No air can come between that. You can't be divided from Yah if you dwell in him and he dwell in you. That means even in the grave he in you, your works going to follow you. You're going to rise again. But when you don't believe that, you're going to defend yourself. I'm talking about if this dealing with the word now. Because see, look what he said here in 2 Corinthians 13. I'm finna let y'all go. There's one more thing I want to look at in 1 Peter 4 and 16. We're going to get out of here. And Lord, we'll tie all this stuff up. We got 2 more days. We halfway through it. 2 Corinthians 13, 12, pardon me. 12 and 7. Lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me. Lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will glory in my infirmities, that the power of a Mashiach might rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, and in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Mashiach's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. We sit back and look at, Paul told us in 1 Corinthians 15, it was sown in dishonor, it was raised in honor. We sit back and we look at that as being a dishonored situation. Because a man's natural inclination is to fight and defend himself. Even sitting back looking at that, that's what Peter's first inclination to do. That's why he upped that sword. But then the Lord had to tell him something. Lord had to show him something. That's why the Lord said, stop it, both of y'all. That's why the Lord told Pilate, he had to tell him that, if my kingdom was of this world, please believe my servants will put this sword upside y'all head. This ain't the first time I had to tell you that, because we ain't no cowards. Y'all hear me? See that? You know what I'm saying? They take it as we thinking that means we cowards. That's why the Lord had to tell Pilate that, please know we not cowards. By any stretch of their imagination. If this was a carnal kingdom and not a spiritual one, we'll bust every last one of y'all heads up. With no hesitation. But I ain't come to bust no heads up. So instead of busting your head up with this literal sword, we're going to bust your head up with this spiritual sword, which is the word of Elohim, and let that cut you to pieces, and you condemn your own soul to hell. Oh, man. Hold on, y'all. That's how it happens to you, Lizzie. You're all right. You going to stop rolling around on that couch? No, she fell face first. It's all right, Lizzie. It's all right, Lizzie. Hold on, y'all. face first. First Peter 4:16. Make it 14. 13. Matter of fact, 12. 1 Peter 4:12. Beloved, think not a strange thing concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice inasmuch as you are partakers of Mashiach's suffering, that when his glory shall be revealed, you may be glad also with exceeding joy. If you be reproached for the name of a Mashiach, blessed, happy are ye. Stop, Leah, they're not yours. For the spirit of glory and of Elohim rests upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. That's why he told you a friend stick closer than a brother, and he's born for adversity. See, even in what you would have to deal with in standing on this man's name, like if you name yourself after the name of Mashiach, then you should have departed from iniquity. You know what I'm saying? All those that name themselves after the name of Mashiach, let them depart from iniquity. You understand what I'm saying? If you done sat there and you done that, and you done took reproach for this man's name for standing on righteousness, for standing on Kodesh, on standing on clean living, and standing on faith, and being a friend of Elohim, and taking that reproach, you ought to rejoice, because that means the spirit of Elohim and the glory of Yah is on you. That's why Paul say, I will rejoice in infirmities, that the power of Mashiach might rest on me. Because there's a brother who loveth at all, there's a friend that loveth at all time, but he stick closer than a brother. They say, well, a man who show himself friendly, and there's a friend that stick closer than a brother. There's a friend that loveth at all times, and there's a brother or a friend that's made for adversity. Hamashiach love at all times. Those that are his. He said, I love mine even on, he said he loved his that were in the world. He loved them all the way to the end. He loved them at all times. He said, I ain't lose none but the son of perdition. He said, nobody can't pluck those that are my father's out of my hand. So you sit back and look at it. If you can get plucked, what that tell you? Verse 15, but let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. So guess what that means? If you around here, if you don't be around here suffering because you hate your brother in your heart. We ain't talking about you actually killing somebody. We talking about hating your brother in your heart. Don't suffer like that. Don't be suffering around here because you're stealing. Don't be suffering around here because you're sinning and you're wicked. And don't be suffering around here because you're nosy and you're gossiping. You're worrying about any and everything everybody else doing instead of worrying about yourself. He said, yet if any man suffer as a. Now what word, see, I was researching this earlier. And I talked to Corey about it because I know he got that Safar Bible. What word do you think should be here instead of Christian? Because we know Christian wouldn't be here. We know full well Peter wouldn't call himself a Christian or any of us. So what words you think would be there? Somebody got their phone on speakerphone and it's not muted. But y'all going to have to motor through that because we got to wrap this up. What word do you think would be there? What word do you think would be there? Anybody else? What words you think would be there? Any man suffer as a what? Whoever that is got the speakerphone off, just take it off. But you know what's actually in the translation on the one he had and what I seen from looking it up? It said that any man suffer as Hamashiach. So now when we look at that, he said, yet if any man suffer as a Mashiach, let him not be ashamed. Hamashiach wasn't ashamed of nothing he went through. It was the glory of Yah. The praise of Yah rested on him behind it. He said, but let him glorify Elohim on this behalf. Then Yahshua glorify the Most High on that behalf. Even when we look at Daniel and Hananiah and Azariah and Mishael, they glorify Elohim on their behalf by willing to suffer. When we look at Jeremiah, he glorified Elohim and being willing to suffer. When we look at David, he glorified Elohim and being willing to suffer. When we look at Joseph, he glorified Elohim and being willing to suffer. None of those men were left to be ashamed. None of them. Even in all their weakness, y'all made them strong. And for none of that, none of them were separated from the love of Elohim, no matter what they experienced or went through. Even look at Job. He suffered as a Mashiach, and he stood, and he wasn't ashamed in the end. That's why he said, I lay in Zion a cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believes shall not be ashamed. Hey, y'all got to take, I don't know why y'all cut them speakers. I know y'all got to hear the echo on the speakerphone yourself. I know you got to hear it. How could you sit there and hear that twice and that don't bother you? Because it drives me crazy. I'm talking about if I was just listening to it. I ain't got to be talking. Just listening to it drive me crazy. But now, I said all this to say this here, because I meant to mention this a couple of days ago. He's like, if I got to go to hell for defending myself, I'm going to hell. Hey, man, it's your soul. You can do what you want to with it. But just know this here. Your works do follow you. You know what I'm saying? We see an example of that, men who were being persecuted without cause. See, they'll look at this here, Maccabees, all of them stood up and fight. But why you don't turn around and look at all the other men that were in position to do so and didn't do it? David could have fought Saul. He didn't do it. Oh, well, that was his brother. That's your excuse, though. But the nigga was coming to kill him, though. Why Hamashiach can't stand up and fight? There were Romans there. I know they're afraid. They're afraid to go to hell. They know where they're going. You got to have that confidence in y'all to know you're going to get up again. You got to know you're going to get up again. Come on around here to Matthew 5:17. Let y'all go, man. It's 9:45. We'll tie up some of the kids continuing on all the stuff we've been looking at the last couple of days. Little mother, come on. I know you had to put your baby back there. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. For truly I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Praise ye Yah for Yahshua HaMashiach in the word. Y'all understood all this stuff?